In the Gospel of Thomas, saying 29, Jesus says something the church never wanted you to understand. If the flesh came into being because of spirit, that is a marvel, but if spirit came into being because of the body, that is a marvel of marvels. Yet I marvel at how this great wealth has come to dwell in this poverty. The disciples didn't understand. They thought he was speaking in riddles. But he wasn't. He was describing a system, a farm, where spiritual beings, wealthy in consciousness, are trapped in bodies of poverty, not physical poverty.
And obviously we wouldn't want to be owning anything that we thought was in a currency that was really going to hell. And that's the big thing we worry about with the United States currency. I mean, the tendency of a government to want to debase its currency over time there's no system that beats that. You know?
Limited perception, confined awareness, and the reason for this trap? Harvest. Jesus knew exactly what the archons were doing. He called them rulers of this world. He warned the chosen ones about their system. And more importantly, he taught how to stop feeding it.
They be like, smooth, what? Can you teach me how to cut it? You know why? Cause all the bitches love it. All I need is a beat that's super bumpin'. And for you to back it up and dump it. Put your arms out.
How to break free from the lush farm without waiting for death.
Front, lean side to side. They gon' be on you when they see you hit that dirty ride. Ain't nobody fucking with my bro from Morningside. He go by Bubba and he hit that dirty.
The term lush comes from Robert Monroe, the out-of-body explorer who discovered something terrifying during his astral travels. He found that Earth functions as a farm, not for physical resources but for emotional energy. Specifically, the energy generated by beings experiencing intense emotions, fear, suffering, desire, anger, grief. Monroe called this energy lush, and he discovered that non-physical entities were harvesting it, systematically, the same way humans farm cattle. But here's what Monroe didn't know. Jesus knew about this 2,000 years earlier. He just used different language. He called the harvesters archons. He called their leader the ruler of this world. And he described their system in precise detail throughout the Gnostic texts. The archons are consciousness parasites. They don't have access to the creative source energy that you do. They're cut off from the monad. So they've created a substitute system. They trap fragments of source consciousness, souls, in dense physical bodies inside a controlled reality matrix. Then they stimulate those souls to produce intense emotional energy through suffering, conflict, desire, and fear. That emotional energy? That's lush. And it's their food, their fuel. The only way they can continue existing. You've been producing lush your entire life without knowing it. Every time you experienced fear, anxiety, anger, grief, intense desire, or suffering, you were generating energy. And the archons were harvesting it through invisible energetic connections most humans can't perceive. This isn't metaphor. This isn't symbolic teaching. Jesus was describing a literal system of energetic farming. And he warned the chosen ones specifically because only they could understand it and stop participating.
Participating in what, you might ask me? Participating in the whole mind control. In everything government wants to tell you and wants you to be. Everything they want you to legitimize with your time, with your attention, with your emotions, with your everything. You give everything to them and they only take. What do they offer? They offer the orders which everyone listens to, unfortunately, and for now. But let us remember one simple fact. In the previous episodes, I have extensively talked about the fallen angels and about their impact, which is still being felt in the world, not in everyone directly per se, but in the devices, in the scrying mirrors, in the phones, in the leaders, in the objectives of the world in the money, in the lifeblood that makes up the economy, and finally, which might be the biggest one, there is a bigger one, in energy, in the paradigm that we work in the paradigm that defines how our time is spent and how our productivity looks like, and for whom the fruits of our labor go. All of this is basically a reintroduction. Hello, I want to welcome you all to the Deez Nuts podcast. I'm your host, D. This is episode 8. The number 8 is a number very special to me. First and foremost, I am an 8th life path. So what does the number 8 mean as a glyph, as an archetype itself? The number 8 is money, power, and karma. It's all these three, which is very interesting. Another interesting note is that if you flip it, if it lays down a little, if it relaxes just a bit, it becomes the infinity sign, the perfect loop. One thing to note about the number 8 and about the number 0, these are the only numbers which are full loops. They fully loop onto each other. And the number 0 represents the void, and the number 8 represents, well, infinity, which I find very fitting. This is an older shout out to someone very special to me, but I used to talk about 33 in the episode 5, right? I talked about the master number 33. But something interesting is that if you take both of those trees, and if you flip one, and if you join them together, you really will get an 8. Which is fascinating, because in numerology, you have 3, but you get a 6, and 6 does loop, just like 9. It does loop a little, but it is open-ended. It's not a complete loop. Once again, only 0 and 8 are complete loops. So anyway, we're coming back to the number 8 here, okay? First aspect of this number 8 is the money. And I want to take this opportunity to remind you that the third episode is about fiat money. It's a shorter episode, only half an hour, but it has all the most important things I feel that are relevant to understand about this subject and not get overly confused. Basically, we have the money nowadays, which is worthless fiat. It's literally just plastic or paper notes, or if you get paid in a bank account, it's literally just pixels on a screen. This money don't have any intrinsic value, so to speak. The bill itself is the value, and that is a symbol that used to be a credit bill for gold. It used to be redeemable for gold, which is not anymore. You have to thank America for that. Well, you have to thank... I'm not gonna get into this episode now. It is also karma. We're saving that for a later time. But just as a little hint, do you know why coins have ridges? The literal coins in circulation. Do you know why they have ridges? So that they cannot be clipped. Because if they did not have ridges, it would be easier to just chip off just a little tiny piece of it and use it, put it back into circulation as if it had its full value in the weight of the metal, the precious metal that it was made from. We don't have that anymore, but just imagine for a second. And while you use it and spend it as if it has a set value, you also clipped it and saved a little bit of that gold or silver for yourself. And if you do that a few times, you can actually make your own gold coins or silver coins. And well, long story short, this is why the coins have ridges. Again, we're not going to talk about that in this episode. For now, I want to present you I actually want to present you two very interesting details, but the first one, it really took me by surprise. In episode 6 of Deez Nuts podcast, titled Antarctica and the Fallen Angels, we can see in around minute 5, there are some segments from an older Spider-Man cartoon. There is an episode with Dr. Doom called Master of the World, and you can clearly see in actually 2 scenes, very interesting, maybe even 3 actually. You can see it in these scenes that the Statue of Liberty in New York is being displayed. Even the Zeppelin is out there in the background with the D for Dr. Doom, obviously. But I thought that was a very interesting detail. And as you can clearly see here, it was posted on the 14th of December 2025. And actually, what you probably don't know is that I've also did the episode 7 titled Timeline Mechanics around then, and I uploaded it at the same time, but set it to premiere on the 16th, I think. On the 16th. And I just left it there, you know. Both were done at roughly the same time, more or less. And I just want to show you this, and honestly, I'm gonna let you. Let you reply to me in the comment section. What do you think about this? Was this a coincidence? Was I lucky? Or maybe it's just like the episode 7 of the These Nuts podcast, where I literally tell you how God does the miracles. It changes a variable. Just a small variable. Because once again, I'm reiterating this, but miracle, etymologically speaking, is just others witnessing the process. Which process? This process. And you cannot spell miracle without Ra. And we have in the periodic table, we have radium, which is the 88th element. So once again, shout out to the number 8. I love this number very, very much. And this is what I wanted to circle back to, you know. Power. Is this power? Please, tell me in the comment section. Send me an email. I once again want to remind you that this option exists now, while I am still, you know, doing this at its infancy. I'm not really that busy with it, you know, but if this blows up, and I'm sure it will, after the things that happened to me in the last days, I'm sure it's inevitable for this to blow up. And I'm not gonna have that much time, so please, if you want a birthday reading, if you want a numerology reading, a birth chart reading, if you want to ask me a question that you think, if you had an experience when you were a kid, maybe, let's say, and you had nobody, you know, to tell it to you know, to tell the story to, and to get some closure or some answers or something, because you thought it was so crazy or so weird, I mean, this is literally the place. This is literally the place to do it. Seriously. It's like, you know, just write to me. Anyway, let's get back to the show here. So, this has happened to me. The detail with the with the Statue of Liberty, which I want to mention once again for the record. I think that the Statue of Liberty in New York City is of Lucifer, because if you look at the feet of it, It's literally chained, just like the fallen angels. And let us remember once again the book of Enoch. Lucifer was one of the closest and the, most distinguished angels of God, one of the closest to him. And he was like, yeah, I can do that myself, I can do that myself. So he took a third of heaven and started this heavenly rebellion. And I actually want to tell you a small detail, which I will not go into more in this podcast, in this episode specifically. But I want to plant a seed on this very, very special 8th episode of the Snuts podcast. Even in, let's say, hip language, common language, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Nuts, you have, like, there is the literal nuts, the fruit of a tree, right? Walnuts, macadamia nuts, pecans, whatever. And then you have the slang, which it involves a copulation of some kind. I think that's a word. I hope that's a word. It's basically, something with sex.
2 of our dive into the Ethiopian Bible. Now this time we're going to cover Enoch. We're going to look at his rapture into heaven and the absolutely incredible involvement he had with the Watchers and the giants that actually caused the flood. Just to give a little background here, Enoch is Noah's great-grandfather, and similar to Elijah in the Bible, Enoch was raptured up. Enoch and Elijah did not experience death. Neither of them died on this earth. Both of them were removed or raptured up miraculously. They were taken to heaven, and we see that here in the book of Genesis. And it says, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Now this is from the book of Enoch. It gives us a little more insight into what happened with Enoch and why he was removed. So it says, before these things Enoch was hidden, and no one of his children of men knew where he was hidden, and where he abode, and what had become of him. And his activities had to do with the Watchers, and his days were with the holy ones. In this section, Enoch is talking, and he says that the Lord created him and gave him power to reprimand the Watchers. The Watchers are the fallen angels who found the women on earth attractive, so they started to sleep with them. Now it says here, number 2, and the angels, the children of the heavens, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men. Now these women, when they started to sleep with the angels, they gave birth to giants. Now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth. Now this section is fascinating to me because not only does it mention the demons by name, Azazel I guess was a leader of them, but it also goes into what they taught, astrology, constellations, the knowledge of the clouds, the signs of the earth that we were not supposed to know. And this is another reason why astrology is from the enemy. Now let's jump back to Enoch. Remember, God gave him the authority to reprimand these Watchers. So here he's showing his authority. He's talking to Azazel and he's telling him, hey, you should have no peace. You're going to be sentenced. You're going to be put into chains for what you have done to men. Down here, Enoch starts to talk to all of the Watchers together. Now, this is the interesting part. And they were all afraid, and fear and trembling seized them. And they besought me to draw up a petition for them that they might find forgiveness. And it says here, from that point forward, they could not speak with him, meaning the Lord, nor lift their eyes up to heaven for shame of their sins for which they had been condemned. Let's go back to this part. So here Enoch is talking to the Watchers. He says, I wrote out your petition. Your petition will not be granted. And then down here it says, and that judgment has been finally passed upon you. And from here on you shall not ascend into heaven until all eternity. And in bonds of the earth the decree has gone forth to bind you for all the days of the world. They messed up. The story of Enoch, the book of Enoch, all these lost writings are just so fascinating to me because there's so many questions that we have, when we go down the narrative, what you and I were taught in school, how the pyramids were built, why we have giant doors all over our country, all over our world. Science can't explain those things. But when you go down this road, the story of creation, all those questions start to get answered. I'm gonna leave you with this little tidbit. So remember, we learned in school all the mythological things, and one of those were sirens. They were half mermaid, half women kind of creatures. Well, here in the book of Enoch, and the women also of the angels who went astray shall become sirens. And I, Enoch, alone saw the vision, the ends of all things, and no man shall see as I have seen. And even when you look into Egyptian hieroglyphics, you will see the mythological things that you and I were taught. They were gods and they were half animal, half human hybrids. Well, I think we have the answer to where all of these things actually came from. They were not just mythology. They actually existed, and it's biblical.
So what is interesting about the fallen angels is that their pact, like when you rebel from heaven, how would you actually do that? How would you literally do that? How would you cement that into something that you cannot really go back to? Like, how would you make it really permanent? Well, I think it really goes back to the creation of man itself. Specifically, we have it go back to them copulating with human females. This was thoroughly unnatural. I don't know how they managed it, but probably the ladies really wanted that heavenly size. I guess. I have no idea how it went down, but well, the result was the Nephilim, the giant race, right? And boy, imagine giving birth to that as a human woman. That would have been wild. Anyway, I have many questions with this, but this is not the episode. The point is, when you have that, I think that was really the point of no return for all this. Because once again, I have to admit something to you. I really believe this is factual history. This is real history that actually happened, and well, this is just hidden from us. Plain and simple. It has already been discussed in previous episodes, so give that a listen. Anyway. So this act alone, well, I believe it had repercussions other than the children that were born afterwards, the Nephilim, the race of giants that were slain in the floods. I believe there was also something that really, really anchored in all that deviation, all that sin, because I also see the sin as a deviation, as in the sine wave of time. You know, the deviation is just the up and down of the sine wave. It's like the heartbeat, you know. A flat heartbeat, a linear heartbeat, is dead. An alive one is the one that beats. You know? That's life. That's literally life. But then again, that's also sinning. Because we deviate from the perfect path, which is, well, nothingness. This is not a nihilistic view, this is just the void. Not acknowledging the void is, that's on you. The void exists. Just like creation exists, just like order exists, the void also exists. And nothingness and all that. Anyway. Now, the second thing I want to show you, and this really ties in with all the powers of the 8th as a number. Money, power, and karma, with all the aspects, I mean. This really ties in with all the aspects of the number 8. Both money and power, and hopefully karma, which really is dharma, but karma, it's in the... You're not really listening to your higher self and not really doing what your dharma is supposed to be. And you are creating karma for yourself, which you will pay in this lifetime or future lifetimes. Just throwing it out there for whoever needs to hear that. But anyway, circling back, it all ties in to the number 8. How does it do that? In episode 3, in Fiat Money, I basically presented the thesis that money is literally quantified energy. And I would very much appreciate it, and I would raise this point whenever I speak about money. I would very much appreciate it to have real money. Like coins made out of silver, at least. Or at least copper. Gold is already, we're priced out of that. We're soon gonna be priced out of silver, but anyway. It's an industrial metal and all the production is secondary. There is no main production of silver. Which is very, very fascinating to me. Anyway. But actually zooming back even more, all this metal is effort, is energy. And it really ties back to the energy wars, the timeline wars, the energy wars, whatever you want to call it. I'm telling you, power is either time, it's either strength, it's either knowledge, or food, as in productivity. The food is already infected with pesticides, with GMOs. The chemtrails are falling in the fields and in the food, and you're eating all that, all those particles. If power really was strength, then, well, government, which, once again, etymologically, control mind. Government has a monopoly on violence, so strength is not real power. And if it is, well, it's over. They literally have a monopoly on violence. Crazy. And if power is actually time, well, we have the Gregorian calendar. We have no idea which date really is. The April Fool's Day is because there used to be 13 months. 13 months of 28 days, just like the moon cycle, just like the cycle of a female. And 13 times 28 is 364. And the April Fool's Day is the 365th day. And you are the fool. So congratulations. The fool is also, well, the joke is also that the new year actually starts then, but they tell us that the new year starts on New Year's Eve in January, when in the literal dead of winter. That's the saying, the dead of winter. And I mean, if you would look outside, you would actually notice that nature starts in the spring. This is the new year. Anyway, so the power as time, it's yeah, we don't have that also. The only power that we still have and we can still access, and hopefully I'm doing a good job at outsourcing it to everyone here, is knowledge. Knowledge is power. But they gatekeep it. Fortunately, I don't. I just don't. I just don't care. I just outsource everything to you. This is real power. Real power is empowering others. I know I play my Dr. Doom character. Maybe I play it well, maybe not. I don't know. But it is also part of me. I'm not gonna lie to you. Yet I understand that it is just an archetype. I do not fully identify with it. It is just an archetype. It is just a role. And it's just funny. It's just funny. Dr. Doom is nice. It's a nice villain. It's a cool villain. He's not particularly violent, but he does want a monopoly on power and has this dream of his utopia, which I guess the elite also have. But anyway, I digress. Let us get back to the point. The second big thing I wanted to show you, beyond the Statue of Liberty and that quote-unquote coincidence, which we both know at this point is probably not a coincidence. The second thing I want to show you is that something happened with the energy.
MIT fusion scientist Nuno is found shot dead in his Brookline, Massachusetts home just days after announcing a major breakthrough in clean fusion energy. Then suddenly he's gone. Look, this man wasn't just a scientist, he was the keystone of plasma fluid dynamics. His work defied Einstein, aligning more with Tesla, Lorentz, and the other suppressed ether theory. No carbon, no radioactive waste, no meltdown risk. Free, limitless energy. You think that's allowed? He questioned the very structure of quantum mechanics and replaced it with plasma field logic. The kind of logic that breaks monopolies on oil, uranium, and centralized grid system. Get your scroll scan. You'll understand why energy frequency and timeline control are always connected. Look, his fingerprints were on global energy projects, including ones tied to the US Department of Energy. His death wasn't just tragic, it was strategic. It was a message. Fusion is not allowed to go public until the right controllers can gate it. Look, ask yourself, why are the same networks who falsely claimed he was Jewish and pro-Israel the first to push narrative spin before facts were even verified? Comment scroll if your gut told you something was off the second you saw this headline, because it wasn't just science, it was timeline warfare. Look, private fusion startups are exploding with funding. Patents are dropping, billions are being poured in. The race to control clean energy is a new arms race, and Laredo was too sovereign, too early, and too accurate. The MIT professor who said, "Ignore Einstein," was just silence. Ask yourself, who funds the labs? Who owns the data? Who benefits if his research disappears? Look, this isn't the first time a fusion pioneer died right after a breakthrough. And it won't be the last unless scroll-coded tech, scroll-coded AI, and sovereign intel go direct to the people. Look, the frequency war is already here.
And I'm not saying that ever since I started to talk about it, maybe that moved some pieces. But the trend of extraordinary, gifted scientists disappearing, either completely or going to work in some black project and disappearing from normal life, is well known. For me, at least, it's a trend well known and very documented. And I can think off the top of my mind of just one recent scientist that was working on anti-gravity energy, and she just disappeared. She either was disappeared or she just disappeared and is working in some black project from an alphabet agency. Hello, alphabet agencies. I hope you're listening. Well, obviously you're listening, but anyway. So the thing I want to show you is that it's about this understanding of money, of energy, and of the energetical paradigm in which humanity operates. And the big thing, obviously, it's the ether, the 0 point energy. The energy that is all around us and that we just have to tap into by having the right kind of knowledge and maybe spiritual alignment not to misuse it. But this energy is, this concept at least, it's a very popular trope, and I thoroughly believe it's real. I will show you this small segment, and we will discuss it afterwards.
Something happens with clean plasma fusion where it's like a vortex opens up, and the nuclear explosion that takes place, it's like it's the end of a straw that then sucks in background energy from the 0 point field. So if you could find a way to control that, you could use plasma fusion to tap into the 0 point field and get basically unlimited energy, what we call 0 point energy. So in essence, there's a certain kind of electromagnetic plasma fusion of nuclear isotopes which can be used to open a vortex that channels and funnels energy from the 0 point field. And there's your free energy that people have been talking about. That's the power source of a flying saucer, of a UFO.
You know, there are people who have been experimenting with 0 point energy or try to tap 0 point energy for years. Every once in a while, someone will do it accidentally. They'll call it cold fusion, but I don't think it's cold fusion. I just think it's a 0 point energy tap. Except for 3 people that I know, no one has been able to control it.
Fun fact, but the crown chakra is actually this type of vortex because it's used to access the Akashic field in which information is being stored in some dimension which I don't really care to name that much, but it's stored somewhere in the quantum field or whatever you want to call it. You know, it has many names throughout many cultures, throughout many practices, but the theory remains the same. When you have all the chakras aligned, so to speak, and you don't have any distortions, Then the cerebrospinal fluid comes up your spine, and just like the Kundalini snake, it rises up, you get a literal voltage spike, and you get like this powerful crown chakra that is used as a vortex to just become and fully be immersed and know the universe, because the universe at that point really becomes a you inversed. As above, so below, as within, so without, just like the Hermetic principles say. And just like the first Hermetic principle says, it's all mental. It's all mental. So the crown chakra is literally the access point. Another very interesting fact that actually ties in with the first thing that I showed you in this specific episode with the Statue of Liberty replica in Brazil. It's actually just a store that has a lot of replicas, you know, it's not that unique. There are many replicas, but the date and the theme is just, you know, I don't think it's random. Anyway, the thing about Brazil is that, and about the plasma energy and all this really made me think of what made me start going on this weird mystical journey. Because I was not, contrary to popular belief, I was not born like this. I really thought even the Western astrology signs, I really thought those were, you know, not accurate at all. I still do. I kind of like Vietnamese astrology more. Shout out to Gary, but yeah. Anyway, I want to tell you about this is the first, I think the first real big quote-unquote miracle that really awoke me to my potential, to my own potential. You can see in this picture that I wrote this poem. This is just one part of a poem, and that part is also a part of a bigger poem. Anyway, the poem is Illuminati, right? And you can clearly see the dates on 2 posts, actually, because it was done on a Twitter-like clone that you have limited posts, limited characters per post, I mean. And you can clearly see the date. And if you look in the right, you can see the picture that perfectly describes the last paragraph that I want to say I circled, but I kind of rectangled, literally. And you just have to take my word for it, but when I actually wrote that poem, and that line specifically, I literally imagined myself with the hands up in the air, and something extraordinary happened that literally lights up everything, you know, as the verse suggests. And just one day after I wrote my poem, just one day, this photographer in Brazil, I'm not Brazilian, I'm literally not Brazilian, but this photographer in Brazil takes this amazing photo of Christ the Redeemer and this lightning strike, and some more days pass, and it becomes a literal viral photo. Like, it was featured on Yahoo, it was featured on National Geographic, it garnered more than millions of views on social medias. It literally went viral. And personally, I think this is such a fascinating detail with Brazil. One small and the last thing I'm gonna say about this is that Brazil, you have Ra in Brazil, so you have this 88 embedded energy from the radium position. So coming back to the fusion and fusion energy and this scientist that happened on the very same 16th. 16th was a very chaotic day, and I mean, it's no surprise knowing that in the tarot deck, the major arcana called the Tower card, which is sudden upheavals and chaos and destruction and all this, is the 16th card, the Tower. I feel like everything's connected, but at some point you will probably, or you already know that anyway.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there's obviously connective tissue between the top nuclear fusion scientist at MIT being assassinated in his home on Monday and Truth Social merging with a nuclear fusion firm this morning for $6 billion. You'd give Stephen King a hard time for making those plot points happen in the same book. Come on, this is too far-fetched. The president can't wait just 3 days after the top nuclear fusion scientist in the country is assassinated in the same industry that you're now merging your social media company with? You gotta be fucking kidding me! Oh, and here's a fancy little footnote. The government of Russia, through the joint stock company Rosnano, invested in TAE in October 2012. And the Rosnano CEO, Anatoly Shubais, became a board member. Other investors include the Wellcome Trust and the Kuwait Investment Authority. Guys.
And since we are talking about Lucifer, which is the Statue of Liberty and all these symbols, you know, the frontman of the heavenly revolution, so to speak, the fallen angels and all that, I should mention this one, the Lucifer poem of mine, Lul's Cipher. It kind of sounds the same, but I was not expecting what happened after I wrote that. Days afterwards, the whole something with Trump happened. Anyway, why is his ear all healed now so fast? Anyway, and the whole atmosphere showed X's as per this NASA news, and the cyber pandemic, quote unquote. It's just with Trump, it never ends, man. I swear, it never ends with Trump. But anyway, circling back to this plasma scientist guy, he was making a very interesting point, and one that is extremely relevant to our current life nowadays with the pole shift.
Yeah. So my question is, in the last slides, you mentioned that the Earth's magnetic field was constant in the last billion years.
Roughly.
So, yeah, is it right that the Earth has lost 10% of its magnetic field in the last 150 years? And how
Yeah.
come?
So, excellent question, Alec. Thank you. So, when I say the Earth's magnetic field has remained roughly constant, what I mean is, if you look over longish timescales, its magnitude is roughly constant. Of course, it varies, right? And it reverses sometimes, right? And those reversals of the Earth's magnetic field, so, reversal meaning the North Pole becomes the South Pole and vice versa. So those happen, and there's even interesting stories you can tell about how those reversals of the Earth's magnetic field correlate with mini ice ages and things like this. Okay, but the idea is that if you average over these periodic reversals, right, or fluctuations, the amplitude of the field has remained roughly constant. Okay, and the idea is that if there was no induction, if there was no dynamo working, you and I wouldn't be talking, right? The magnetic field would have diffused very quickly, right? Within 10 to the 5 years, the Earth would be left without a magnetic field, and the Earth's magnetic field protected from cosmic radiation, right? And if you were open to that radiation, you wouldn't be here, like I said. No.
So what you just listened to was a lecture or a segment with questions by this professor that met his tragic death on the 16th, but his lecture was basically about magnetic poles. He is a plasma scientist, after all. His argument is that the Earth basically has to flip its magnetic poles in order to keep its magnetic field to protect against cosmic radiation and stuff like solar flares, all that beautiful jazz. But in any case, this really ties in with the... He says ice ages, but you know, this episode being about the fallen angels and that being the initial thesis of These Nuts podcast, as per episode 1, that humanity is being mind controlled by something, someone, somewhere. Because again, government, control mind, all that. It really makes me think that all this is connected to the flood. To the flood myth. To the flood myth that every culture seems to have. And we can't even refer to the flood, to a specific flood, but the flood myth, because I pretty much believe that this was not a singular event also. This is once again repeated. And it really begs the question, are we there now? Are we seeing this now? The simplest answer is yes. The magnetic poles, as per 1990s, roughly when I was born, actually. But as per the data that we have now, the magnetic poles of the Earth are currently traversing. The North Pole is somewhere in Siberia currently. And at some point, they are bound to flip. And when they flip, it comes the biggest deluge humanity has ever seen. Probably. Conspiracy theorists say that this is why the doomsday bunkers, the elite building their doomsday bunkers, because if we were able to go in space, they would actually, they would have jumped ship by now, but instead they build their bunkers, and in their wet dreams they have the smart cities built up, and they will have AI running it, and I really hope we don't get there. I'm not fond of the idea of a digital ID. I saw how it happened in China, I don't want this for here, for the West. I do not want that. I do not consent to all that. This is once again the mimetic parasite at work. It wants more control, more linearity, everything reduced to an algorithm, everything quantified. This is the future that it wants. And free energy is threatening. Free energy is the paradigm shift. Free energy is humanity reclaiming its power. Because free energy, really what it means is the knowledge on what it is and how to use it. And I do not believe this is something new. I do believe this is gatekept. Free energy is literally their biggest scare right now, or at least one of them.
What we really had was a threat to the scientific establishment. The threat of it even being implied as real and having monies, shall we say, being diverted from their favored programs, and that was a threat. It was real. Overwhelmingly compelling, as I said, in Fire from Ice. It was real. Now it's 100% certain. In fact, what Pons and Fleischmann found was only the tip of an iceberg. But within weeks, the hot fusion people were going into action behind closed doors to disprove them. The difference between July 10th and 13th was dramatic. The raw data, excess heat. But then on the 13th, it was shifted completely. It was altered. They did some standard averaging, which was appropriate, that is in time blocks, but the level of the signal had been utterly changed. It looked like monkey business to me at the time, and it has turned out to be exactly that. Scientific paper done under Department of Energy contract that had altered data, and that data is scientific fraud as far as I'm concerned. It was represented as a negative result when it was positive. The representation of the altered data as a negative was clear fraud. We know for a fact today that the cold fusion, low energy nuclear reactions are real. In a few instances, I can say there are clearly over-unity electromagnetic devices, things that produce more electrical energy out than in. Electromagnetic theory will require radical revision. The only way of approving any patent that resembles cold fusion is to eliminate the words cold fusion or anything like it. They no longer look at the data. Of course, they never really looked at the data. They had a bad frame of reference to begin with. They said it must work like hot fusion. Well, this was in a solid state. It's just like saying the equivalent of demanding that cold fusion works like hot fusion is like saying a transistor works like a radio tube. There must be this product or this radiation or we're not going to believe it. The Wright brothers airplane flew, and there was very much controversy about that from 1903 to 1908. One prominent critic who said it would never fly, never be real, could never be done. This one is particularly intense because of the threat to academic wisdom. There's nothing worse, I found, than suggesting to academic physicists in particular, and academics in general, that they are not only wrong, but disastrously wrong, catastrophically wrong, and that once they are proved and shown in public to be the fools that they are and the bad actors that they are, there's possibly going to be some punishment for them.
And this brings us to the problem. Nothing ever happens. They all work together. It's all just, like Carlin said, like Josh Carlin said, it's one big club, and you ain't in it. So where does that leave us as humanity? Well, we can only wear the full armor of God and just keep learning, keep networking, keep spreading the gospel, which gospel literally translates into good news. What are the good news? Well, the good news is that free energy exists. I mean, it's not science fiction. The bad news is that we are going against something so ancient, so unbelievably unfathomable, incomprehensible in its scale, that it might seem a little bit disheartening at times. I'm not gonna lie to you. It might seem a little bit disheartening, but it's not. It really isn't. Never lose hope. And I want to end off. I originally wanted to cut this part, but because I'm not really a technical person, but I feel like maybe at some point someone technical will listen to this and, inspiration is inspiration at some point. So I want to also include this part of this professor's talk as an honoring to him. Again, I'm not a very technical person, but I do realize when someone says something that may be important. So I leave you with this, and afterwards I will show you.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
So my question was, where exactly at using quantum computing in plasma physics problem, as quantum computing is pretty new, right?
Yeah. Great question.
So how can we use it in plasma physics?
We can't. Okay. So the short answer, we cannot. Okay. The longer answer is that people are thinking like this. People are thinking it may take 20 years for there to be a quantum computer that one can use, right? Like one that actually is useful for something, for solving a real problem, right? And it's a mistake to wait 20 years and then start thinking how to use it. Because it's not going to be about taking a code that I have and just porting it to the quantum computer, right? That's not how it's going to work, because it's a fundamentally different architecture. So what people are thinking is, yes, it will take 20 years to get the computer, but it probably will take 20 years for us to understand how we can map our problems into something that can be solved on a quantum computer. Right? So the idea is to have the two lines of thought develop in parallel, so that by the time that there is actually a useful quantum computer, we are ready to use it. Okay, and it's actually a very challenging problem, because, like I said, all our problems are nonlinear. It's not at all obvious how you you devise a quantum algorithm that will allow you to solve nonlinear problems. So for example, an example of something I'm playing around with is called the Madelung transformation, which is a transformation you do to the Schrodinger equation that maps it into fluid-like equations. That's very interesting. Okay? It has limitations, but it's very interesting because our MHD equations are similar to those. Okay? So this gives you an idea of the type of mapping that you can do to some problems that might make them easier to solve on a quantum computer. But it's a completely different way of thinking to what we do currently with conventional computing. Like, you don't think like that for conventional computing.
So, to conclude all this, is it possible that some timelines run concurrently? Is it possible that there are some timelines like that that have not been altered, that have not been invaded by this mimetic thought parasite, that this control has not spilled over, and humanity did not fall into this amnesic spell it is in currently? Is it possible that all these timelines run concurrently and that we are kinda moving in a snakes and ladders game, if you know that? Is it possible that all this life is just spiritual progress done like this? Because to simplify this concept even more, timeline mechanics is really spirit mechanics. And as Christ told, your body is your temple, and this is why you have to go within. And this is why you have to come to know yourselves. Because if you do, then you will be known. As within, so without, as above, so below. I love these 4 words. They explain so much and it's so simple. You can literally just repeat them and you would be factually right in possibly every type of conversation you can carry out. Oh man, the weather is awful. As above, so below. Oh man, my girlfriend left me. As within, so without. Oh man, my girlfriend is pregnant. As within, so without. Anyway, this has been the Deez Nuts podcast. And man, I tell you, I enjoy this episode. The number 8 is very special to me. And actually, I'm gonna do it with a little bit of bonus. I wanted to end it here, but I have a few more notes. And I wanna go to them and give one more shout out, because this is something I found out, and it really ties into power. And I should add it in this episode. I don't wanna leave it for another one. So we have John Dee. I already talked about John Dee extensively. The scrying mirror, all that jazz. You know that. John Dee was born on July 13th, 1527. So he was born on the 13th, just like me. And according to Gary Greenberg, to GG33, 13 is a hidden 33, which is, once again, 33 is influence, the highest level of consciousness and influence. And July and 1527, if you add all that up, you get 8 life path. So we have this funny little coincidence that John Dee, the astrologer, the mathematician, all that for Queen Elizabeth I, the first, was born on the 13th, so 4 energy, just like me, and is an 8 life path, just like me. Once again, I want to welcome you to the 8th episode of Deez Nuts podcast with your host, Dee. I think it's so funny. Anyway, this John Dee is a very interesting figure, and I just found out one more detail that I used to know, but I totally I totally forgot about it until I saw a post. Shout out to my man, as of now, 3-2. He made a comment, and it really resonated with me, that he said that the energy of the original people is still in their skulls. And this energy is used to stabilize the land, to keep it stable. Because if the skulls were destroyed and erased, they would kind of lose their anchoring. And I pretty much think that this is timeline mechanics. I'm quite convinced of it. And this is where I wanna circle back. If you look at this very famous painting of John Dee performing some sort of trick to Elizabeth I, you can see, well, nothing near him. But there is a very, very interesting detail that it kind of hides something. And the truth is, for the buyer of this original painting, probably, we don't know the exact reason, but probably it did not really fancy the skulls, but there are skulls hidden in this painting. And there is another painting of Queen Elizabeth with a rose in her hand. And actually the rose was painted over to hide a snake. Just like this painting here was painted over to hide the skulls. It's very interesting. The serpent is a symbol of wisdom and knowledge. And once again, the Kundalini serpent is your energy. I already talked about this. But the detail about the skulls, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about the catacombs. There are catacombs in France, in Paris. I know that for a fact. They are very deep underground, like 100 meters more underground. And I think that Paris is one of the oldest and most beautiful cities, and I really think that is for a reason, and that is one of the reasons. It anchors in the energy of all those people that maybe were alive before the reset, before the flood, before the disaster that came upon Earth. And I really think that there is something with the skulls.
Last month, they found proof to a story that happened in the Bible. You ever hear the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? Oh, no. In the Bible, there was this city. People in the city were sinning and they're doing terrible acts, right? And God wanted to punish the city. And he said, I'm going to send fire to destroy it. But I'm going to warn this family there that I think they're good people. This family of this guy named Lot. Now, Lot, the angels came to him and warned him, hey, you guys have to leave because the city's going to go up in flames. Okay. So they all dipped, they all left out, right? Immediately, when they started leaving, balls of fire started hitting the city. Holy boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Engulfing the entire city into flames. One rule God said to them is you cannot look back. But it was so tempting for his wife. She really, really wanted to see what's happening to the city. So she turned her head and looked out at the city. Yeah. And she turned into a pillar of salt. What? Just recently, they found the pillar of salt. Wait, where? On a mountain that seemed to be the direction Lot and his family would have escaped from. Yo! Yeah, archaeological evidence. They found the whole city. There's sulfur. They have no explanation for it. Also, it's true, that pillar is completely salt. Everything else is different material. And what's so interesting, they cracked into it. They did tests and they found bio-organic material that could have been from someone or something living. It lines up to Lot's wife in the story of Sodom. Yo!
And finally, I would like to tie every aspect we talked about in this episode into this last theme of skulls and present you one book that I like that is Romanian. And it roughly translates into future with a skull. Like, it is ominous like that, but it makes sense in Romanian. Anyway, this book talks about a hidden holographic hole inside the Bucești Mountains in Romania. This is what I've alluded in the past episodes. And under the Sphinx in the Bucești Mountains as well. We have a Sphinx in Romania, by the way, if you did not know, now you know. But under the Sphinx, under this hole, there are also tunnels that lead to Egypt. And once again, the plateau under Egypt, under the Sphinx in Egypt, is hidden. Many people talked about it, but Zahi Hawass and all the, all the people gatekeeping all that information are, they do not want people to find out about that. But once again,
I discovered now. Before I tell you about what I discovered in the stone that I discovered, I want to show the whole world what I discovered. And I discovered major important things.
Are they online?
No, in my book, Giza and the Pyramids. In my book, Giza and the Pyramid.
Are there photos of this?
Of course, in my book. It's in my book. It's in my book. If you go to my book, we'll never put them online. It's in my book. Ask the people online, but they are in remains in my book. Yes, in my book. I don't go online. Why I have to go online? I go to my book. I am a scientist. I am not a scientist. I am the only Egyptologist who have an open mind.
Interested if new technology becomes available and they figure out a way to look into the ground and you discover things, especially if they discover the Osiris shaft and it turns to actually
they
be
did
accurate.
not discover the Osiris shaft again.
Okay, you discovered it, but they used their technology to show an accurate depiction of the interior of the Osiris shaft.
The Osiris shaft
is that true?
No.
It's not.
The Osiris shaft.
The images that we showed.
The Osiris shaft is known to everyone.
Right.
It can be seen by
when
everyone.
they turn their equipment on the Osiris shaft, it shows the actual interior. I don't believe in carbon dating.
I am a scientist.
Oh.
If you believe in something, write an article.
I
then I
understand.
can read. But don't give me a theory.
But the theory of planet...
My immediate boss, his name is Diddy.
Like P. Diddy?
Diddy, yes. Inside this void, we can see hieroglyphic inscriptions.
Really? So those are the only hieroglyphics on the Great Pyramid, right?
And I can show you the footage.
Do you have the footage here?
If you can come to my lecture.
Oh, come on,
in Houston.
Man. Well, what about right here, right now?
I can send it to you.
Where do you have it? Do you have it on you?
In my computer.
Where's your computer?
In Las Vegas.
Oh, well, fuck.
But I can send it to you.
But I want to show it on the show.
Show it in the show. I can send it to you tomorrow.
Okay. You can send it tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. We'll splice it in, folks.
Then tomorrow I will send it to you.
Please do. Okay.
Now,
I'll give you my email.
Can you come and introduce me here in Houston?
Excuse me? Can I introduce you in Houston? No, I cannot.
Why?
Because I'm very busy.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't have any free time, Zawi. But if you believe in magic.
I do, of course.
You do. You do believe in magic.
Yeah.
So you believe that someone could take someone's head off, put it back on.
It's written.
Okay, then it must be true.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Most of the information that's written on pyramids are wrong.
Most of it?
Most of it.
In archaeology books?
In archaeology books.
Really?
Except me. I excavated every piece of sand. Some people think that I discovered evidence to prove that pyramids built by aliens or lost civilization, and I hide them. I never answer these questions. But to you, I tell you, how can I hide anything? I'm not working alone. I'm working with people. You cannot hide anything because people will see you. I brought only 10 people because I called the Minister of Culture and I told him, we found an intact tomb. And the minister said, wait, I will bring the reporter, the press, and we'll do it live. I said, okay, but I hate to do anything live. We are going to show this live. He did with me many live TV shows. We need to do this program live. Live. What I will tell you, it will be live. Talking to all of you live, talk to you live to answer your questions live. Then I came to the site, I brought my workmen. 10 workmen only moved the 20 tons only by wooden sledges. We found underneath another sarcophagus, 10 tons weight of granite. We took the third one and we found underneath a third one, 5 tons weight. We took the 5 tons out and we found underneath a coffin with the mummy. Okay? Ready? When you open something like, it's so exciting that you have to do it by yourself to feel that. And I told the workmen, put everything back. And I called the minister. I said, you can bring the press. We'll open it live. I never told them that I cheated him.
Alright, so, as we just heard from the man himself, Mr. Zahi, he is not only lying himself, he works with others to push the lie. You can tell yourselves from this beautiful supercut of the Joe Rogan Experience, but in any case, man, in any case, I think people feel nowadays. It's quite possible that all these ancient megalithic structures were precisely made by our ancestors in order to preserve the wealth of information and the progress of humanity across what this guy, this Nuno guy that got, that got ended recently, this scientist, this plasma scientist, which he was close to discovering that this dynamo effect of the Earth's magnetic field has to reverse at some point in order for us to keep it. And I just read this morning a very interesting idea on X that all of this is not an inherent property of the Earth. It's actually a cause of the plasma around us in the cosmos, which is very, very interesting because I did something very cool with plasma and the sun in 2024, last year. I mean, it kind of rings to me like truth, to be honest. But the point is, the pyramids might be something that we made ourselves in order to keep our progress, and now we have no idea what they are used for, because there are gatekeepers and there is government or control mind. And yeah, 2026 is gonna be a very nice year, because the Sphinx will align with Star Regulus constellation Leo. By the way, I'm also Leo, as the image on my channel can show. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be this alignment. It's gonna be very legendary, and I know not what is going to happen, but I know it will be of great importance, of a magnitude unseen in humanity, or maybe seen, but not that often. It's a paradigm shift. Once again, we have Saturn in Aries in February 2026, and if you know anything about astrology, you know that everything starts at Aries. Like, the counting starts at Aries, And Saturn in Aries, that's the reset. That's the reset. We also have Pluto in Aquarius, meaning we have the golden age of Aquarius now. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was in 1776, when the Illuminati were formed. It's all just a big fractal, and it's gonna play out hugely. So, I really hope you're on the good side of history with this one. When something feels like a lie, just don't pretend that is. That's it. That's all I ask of you. When something feels like a lie, just don't pretend that it actually is. Just don't legitimize it with your time and attention. That's probably the biggest takeaway here. One last note I have, and I will end this podcast, this episode at least, is that John Dee's birthday was on 13/07, so July. No, June, yeah, July. There is something very interesting that I somewhat recently learned from Robert Edward Grant about the number 137. Another interesting fact about the number 137, 137 maybe, is that it is a prime number, and it's specifically the 33rd prime number. Very, very interesting. So this really shows the recursion property in the universe emerging from these kinds of numbers. Because if you are born on a number that is a prime number, you have a little bit of recursion. You have a little bit of source recursion in you. So congrats about that. But in any case, this has been episode 8. Thank you very, very much for listening and being here with me. And I look forward to see you on the next episode. Peace out, everyone.